So look, there's different ways that you can get investment properties, finding investment properties. So in today's video, I'm going to talk about tax liens. And when someone doesn't pay their taxes or they having problems paying their taxes, how you could swoop in and get the property just off of tax liens. All right, so I'm going to be talking about that today. Let's get into it. Welcome in. Welcome to tonight's Hive, right? This is a study hour where we go over strategies with the education that we use to really get smart, to get a little nerdy and know these different things in order to get properties. This whole real estate is just a vehicle because that's really what it is. Most people, I was talking to somebody today, and they were asking me. Matter of fact, I'm gonna text them right now. There it is. So what they wanted to know is how to create cash flow with real estate, right? And most of the time, that's the thing with this game, right? You're usually using it to get to an end goal for yourself. Whatever that end goal might be. Maybe it's freedom, or maybe it's cash flow, more money, or big chunks of money at a time. You know, the very first time I did a real estate deal, right? I made about it was somebody that was buying a property, and they changed their mind. So once they changed their mind, I had a contract, and then they had to get out. In order to get out, they had to pay me in order for them to get out. So since they changed their mind and they had to get out, I was like, well, you can't just walk away because we got a contract. So because we got a contract, they actually had to pay me to get out of the contract. That was the first thing that was really cool. Well, somebody got to pay you to get out of a contract. And then that one time, I literally made about just $6,000. But that's the most that I made in something at one time. At the time, it was it was early, probably before I had my first property. Right. So for someone to pay like $6,000 in one shot, before that, I was just getting checks from my job. So to see like $6,000 just come in at one time, I was like, whoa, that's different, because now you're getting like a big chunk of money. Right. And that's the thing about this game, right? This vehicle can give you a nice big chunk of money at one time. It's nothing to make, once something closes, to get like $10,000, $15,000, $20,000 in this business. It's really nothing. If you haven't done that or you haven't seen it, then you're in the right place, because it's one of the spots where sometimes you could turn around, make 40, 50 grand, 100,000. We did a property tour about 2 nights ago, and their potential to make up to 70 grand in profit. One shot. Unless you've gotten that, you'd be like, how do you make that type of money? And this is the business that allows you to do that. Right? So usually it's a means to an end. Whatever that end may be, this is usually the means to an end. It's the vehicle that gets you there. Right? This is the car you invest in so you can get to your destination. That whole real estate thing. And the thing is, the car, the house, how do you get it? Where do you get them from? And there's so many different ways. So I'm going to share a whiteboard. In tax liens, does the I come before the E or what? Does the I come before the E in lien? Or does the E come before the I?
Yeah, the I comes before the E.
All right. Thank you, Michaela.
You're welcome.
Thanks, Alvin. So tax liens is just one of the ways to find property, right? Because in everybody's house, so people have a house, whatever it is, when you purchase a house, you pay taxes on it. That's fortunate or unfortunate in some cases. And most of the time, these taxes is just part of it, even if you own it free and clear. So free and clear, like if you pay off your mortgage, sometimes you have people that purchase property, right? They purchase their property, they buy it, they just keep it, and then what happens is they don't realize that you got to pay taxes, and then if you don't pay your taxes, the government takes your property. They just take it if you don't pay your taxes. So in essence, it's almost like even if you don't have a mortgage or a loan against your property, doesn't it feel like, yo, do I really own this? Because if you don't pay your taxes, you still have a bill on your house. If you don't pay the taxes, then they'll take the house from you, right? And that's usually the big issue. And a lot of people don't know that. A lot of people that own property don't realize that, right? Or they'll forget, especially because a lot of times some people, they'll pay off their mortgage and forget that now they're paying taxes, especially since the mortgage company, usually when you buy a house, and you got a loan and a mortgage. So you're paying, everything is inside of your bill, PITI, right? So that's principal, interest, taxes, and insurance. So usually in your mortgage payment, the taxes is in there. But when you pay it off, I promise you, most people forget. They be forgetting, like, wait, I gotta pay taxes? Where we gotta pay taxes from? That's the part. And because of that problem alone, where most people either forget to pay their taxes, or they get to the point where there's a tax bill and they don't have the money. They don't have the money. And that sometimes happens as well. So since they don't have the money, now there's an issue. They can't pay their taxes. Now the government is coming for you. They're coming for you because of that. So just understanding that concept is the main thing you just have to know. That sometimes people just don't pay their taxes, forget to pay their taxes, or just don't have the money to pay their taxes. Some people get tired of paying their taxes. Now, there was one time I had a piece of land that I purchased, right? I purchased it, and I happened to be one of the people that forgot about the whole tax thing because the house is not making no income. And so I'm getting a bill, right? I'm getting a bill and it's saying taxes due. I'm like, taxes? All right, cool. So I'm like, okay, I'll pay the taxes. So what happens is I didn't pay the taxes for a while, but I had no mortgage on the property. So I didn't pay the taxes for a while. Then they sent over this thing like, yo, you can lose. They get the big sign, right? You could lose your home. We're going to sell this tax thing and you could lose your home. I'm like, for what? For taxes. And it's weird. And sometimes even if there's a mortgage, a person can absolutely lose their house if you don't pay your taxes or catch up. I'm also in a deal right now where the person had to catch up on the tax payment in order for them to keep the property, for them to sell the land. So there's a lot of things that can happen where most people don't realize, like, hey, this tax thing is one of the good ways to sell a property. And what I want to show you is this.
Hey, just wanted to step in here real quick. So if you're enjoying this video and you have a specific question for your scenario, your situation, something that you want to do, or something that's been burning in your mind that you wanted to ask, two things you could do. You could leave a question in the comments. Real simple, right? Just, hey, I got a question on this, and you get that question answered. Or if you're really looking to work with someone, work with a group of investors, including myself, and you want to dive deep into learning more about finding property and other things related to real estate investing, I'm going to leave the link to the community in the description. That's where we dive deep on a regular basis, and you can get training like this all the time live. All right. So I'll leave the link to the community in the description, or don't forget, you can always just leave a question in the comments. Let's get back to the video.
The thing about it, taxes are usually lower than what the property is worth. So you can always, like, let's say if a property has a value on the market, let's say it has a value on the market of 100,000, right? So if it's 100K value, now your taxes could be less than that. So if your house is worth 100K and the taxes you owe could be like, 15,000, and if you haven't paid it over a certain amount of time, imagine losing $100,000 house for a tax bill of 15 grand. That's really what can happen. You can, and that can absolutely happen. So even if you have no mortgage on the property, so you got no mortgage, the house is worth 100 grand. If you owe 15K in taxes, you can actually, if you don't pay, you can actually lose the house just because of this 15,000. And so now how we come in, us as investors, that scenario I just showed there is where you as an investor can come in. You can come in and pick up that house for something like 15,000. Pretty cool, right? If the person doesn't pay their taxes, they can't pay their taxes. The house could be worth, in this example, 100,000. Now you could pick up the house for about 15K sometime. That's about the right number. Now the question is, how do you find that? How do you know that a person is actually going through that situation, right? And that's something that you can always look up. All right, but really what I wanted to go over was just that concept in itself, because it was surprising. The first time I heard about it, I was kind of shocked. Right? Like, how, you can just pick up a property, because taxes on property is a fraction of what the value of the property is. Right? It's always a fraction of what the value of the property is. So knowing that you can do that is pretty cool. So now that we got the concept that, you could pick up a house just on a tax thing right here, 15K, right? That's the way that you can get the house. Now, the only thing left for you is to knowledge up on the type. So there's different types of taxes. There's just about two that I'm going to talk about, right? So there's two different types of taxes. You have, and I'll show you right here, right? You got a tax lien and you got a tax deed, right? So now the lien is something that's on the property for some time, and you can purchase the lien, and there's a redemption. There's a time for a person to pay the lien. If they don't pay the lien, like sometimes it's like 2 years on certain states. If the lien is not paid, let's say you purchase the lien, if the lien is not paid over 2 years, then you can foreclose on the house, and that's how you pick it up, right? Now, in some states, when you got just a tax deed, what happens is if you don't pay it, they give you a redemption period, and you don't purchase the lien. Once it's due, they give you a time to pay your taxes, and once you don't pay your taxes, they just sell your deed, right? So you get a redemption period to pay your taxes, and if you don't pay it, then your deed is sold. Right? They just sell your deed. Because not all, so the thing is, sometimes you can purchase a tax lien. You can purchase a tax lien from an auction, or you can go straight to the city and purchase and pay the taxes on the property. You can just pay the taxes, and then for a deed that's sold, because a deed could be sold, because not every single state has all of that. Not all the states give you that lien period, right? So I remember the property that I had, it had a lien period. So what happened was somebody purchased the lien, then I had 2 years to pay the lien and pay them. So then the person that purchased the lien was making money on their money. So they purchased the lien and then they add interest to it. And so now that person is making money. And so the place that you can usually find tax delinquent properties, there it is, right? So you can always look up where do you find tax delinquent properties? Because it's a cool strategy. Right? So I'm gonna do something that most people can do. Right? You can just do this. I think that is cool to do this. Let's say I'm gonna go to ChatGPT, because what's gonna happen is you'll be the person on your computer one day. Right? You'll be on your computer, and hold on, it's pulling up. Oh, I'll do that later. I owe ChatGPT some bread. I'll do that later. How can I find tax delinquent properties in what state? Let's go Ohio. How about your state, Alvin? Watch, and then it'll say, how can I find tax delinquent properties in Ohio? Now, what I'm saying is this is exactly what you can do. Because you can find properties, there's people that don't pay taxes and they lose their houses all the time. It's just a matter of you knowing how to find it, right? And if you have money, you could always do it. So here's the question. Let's see what the answer is. Let's look at this together. All right, look at this. Look at this. There it is, right? You got the county treasurer, right? Auditor website. So you can go in Ohio, there's a delinquent tax search. You can look up here and tax lien and foreclosure sale listing. This is public information right here. So this right here is public. So the person who bought my tax lien just found the property here, and then they bought the lien.
So did they have to talk to you before they did that, Joe?
They ain't gotta talk to me. I'm not the lien holder, right? Who's the lien holder?
Oh, the state or the county.
The state or the county. So that's the part. And this is what's so messed up about life sometimes, right? You think you own it and you don't. They don't got to talk to me. I don't own the lien. The government, the state or the county owns the lien against your property. So if you don't pay taxes to them, they can snatch the house. All they got to do is tell you, hey, look, you ain't pay your taxes. We could sell your house. Pay us the money. We're going to sell your house. We'll let you know. And then the city has the nerve. Like, if you don't pay, they'll tell you the date the auction is happening. They'll be like, yo, listen, on this date, we're selling your house. Because you ain't pay us the taxes. That's what they'll just tell you what's going to happen. They give you your rights because usually, so the United States is for the people, right? For the people, by the people. So the country is built for the people. So they give you the opportunity to pay, and they give you time, and sometimes they might even give you some type of payment situation. They give you time to work it out. The thing about it, though, if you don't do it within the time, it's over. And that's the same thing with foreclosures, all that stuff. So tax liens, everything. They'll sell your house, but you have the right to the time to fix whatever your problem is. You have the right to redemption. You have the right to the time. All right. So just remember that. And that's another place that us as investors, you have to know that there's always some time. There's always a little bit of time that you have before the house is gone. So what you end up doing is you play the game. The game is a waiting game. So you buy the lien, and then two things. If let's say you find it on the website, you find the lien, and the lien is for sale, and it's basically it's the debt that's owed to the government. So the homeowner's not paying. So what you do is you step in, you pay it. All right. The county of Ohio, I'll pay the lien. The person has 2 years to figure it out. So you're going to be paying it every month for 2 years. You pay the lien now, not the homeowner. So now you in cahoots with the owner. You're paying the taxes, they own the house. If they don't pay you in like the 2 years or that time that's allowed, now you can foreclose on the house and get it for the tax lien payments that you paid over that time. And usually the tax payments are not usually that much. They're not much at all. You know, it's not a lot compared to the value of the house. I don't want to say it's not a lot because that's a relative statement. A lot, you know, if somebody don't got $10, that could be a lot of money to them. You know what I'm saying? So the term a lot is relative to the person. Right? But if you're in the real estate game, right, numbers like 5,000, 10,000 to redeem a property, to just pay those property taxes, those numbers are common. 5 figures is common in real estate. You see it all the time. So regardless of how, you know, regardless of however your situation is, right, what happens is you'll start to get used to the numbers here when you're in the real estate game. How much? Give us an approximate figure. How much for what? Like how much tax lien? So look, I'll show you. Daniel, since you're asking the question. So sometimes it's right here. I got on my whiteboard. So on my whiteboard here, my fancy whiteboard, right? So a typical property can have taxes owed of about $15,000, right? A property could be valued at $100K, and the taxes owed might be around $15,000. So now, if the property is valued at $100K, the person will owe this amount. They'll owe 15 grand. And so if you pay this lien of 15,000 and they don't pay you back, you got a big chance of getting a house for the 15,000.
Right. What if they have a mortgage on it? Does that make a difference?
Usually, here's the thing. If they have a mortgage, check this out. If they have a mortgage, that means there's a bank involved. So the bank is involved with the property. So the bank has a mortgage, which is a lien on the property itself. So the bank has interest in the property. So they have interest in the house. And so what the bank does is usually they won't let another person come get the house for the taxes. So if the owner doesn't pay the taxes or the taxes is not in their mortgage bill, the bank will pay the taxes. So usually this whole strategy, right? Because the bank has an interest in your property when they have a mortgage on it, if you don't pay the taxes, they will. Then you just owe the bank. So this strategy usually works for properties that are free and clear, meaning no mortgage. It is a waiting game because the waiting game is because every person has time to work out this situation. In tax game, even with the IRS, bro, you know what I'm saying? Even with the IRS, whatever tax thing is, most of the things that happen with houses and everything, they give a person time to work their situation out. So in taxes, if you buy a lien, let's say you paid a $15K and you purchased the lien, there's a time that is given before the house is sold at auction. Usually, sometimes around two years. Now, that's some states. So if it's a tax deed, right? Let's say you own. So the only difference is this: if it's a state where there's no lien redemption lien period, so some states don't have a lien redemption period. So if it's a tax deed state, what that means is this: if it's just tax deeds, meaning, so what they'll say, you owe taxes. No one can buy your lien. There's no lien to purchase. What happens is if you don't pay the taxes, they give you the same time, maybe a year or 2 years to catch up on your taxes. Otherwise, they just sell your house. So now they'll just sell your tax. They'll sell your deed. They'll just sell the deed to your house and it's gone. So there's no lien to purchase where you're paying the lien over time. They'll just sell the entire thing. All right. And what the deed is, this is another part. So the deed, when I say tax, so our study hour is called Tax, Liens, and Deeds. And the reason why the deed is there, because what a deed represents on a house is ownership. So usually this deed is the piece of paper that represents ownership on a house. So this is the one that says who owns the house. You own it. Who owns the house? Daniel owns the house. He's the owner on record, on deed record. So it represents ownership. So what happens is if you own the house and you don't pay your taxes, they give you a tax deed is the type of deed that gets sold to the investor or the person that purchases it. You got it?
Yeah, that makes sense.
Makes sense. But you know what? Shout out to my friend Michelle McKenzie. She would have been the one to be like, I don't know, you're saying that, were you supposed to be sharing? I was supposed to be sharing. I was supposed to be sharing on that one, and I wasn't. Here we go, right here, because Daniel asked the question. Here we go. We back up. Whiteboard. We back on the whiteboard. So, like I was saying, the deed means it's ownership. The tax lien or the tax deed, there's always time for redemption or to straighten it out. If you don't straighten it out, they sell you. Either way, they sell your house or you lose your house. So what you can do is you can find liens, or you can be in a state that's the tax deed. So let's find out. I can go to Google, right? Yeah, I can go to Google. Watch this.
So
I go to Google and ask.
I got a question.
Question, go.
So say for instance, you pay the taxes on the tax lien, and the deed, does the deed go to you immediately, or does the deed go after that redemption period is up and they haven't paid anything?
Yeah, everything has its time. So once the time is up and no one's for it or they haven't done anything, the deed goes to you. Same thing with a lien. They have redemption periods. So every state has a different guideline to how long a person has. Like they don't want, they don't want to give your house away. They don't want you to lose your house. But if you can't pay, then there's not much you can do. If you can't pay your taxes, there's not much you can do. They don't want you to lose your house. Nobody wants you to be in financial troubles. No one wants that. It's just that us as investors, that's where we live. We live in the area that people have problems. Would you disagree?
I agree.
People have problems. And for your financial freedom, the way you want to get rich, you want to make big money, this vehicle is about living in those little problem areas. So if it's short-term rentals, landlords, they hate tenant problems. They hate long-term tenants. So because you get a short-term rental, you're a better tenant than the regular tenants. Right? Your interest is different on the lease property. Right? A fix and flip, the house is ugly. And that's a problem. So you come in and you make it nice and you make a beautiful home for a new family. That's the problem that you're solving. Cash flow. If you just get a regular rental, it gives you cash flow and it gives someone a place to live. So the real estate game is based around you finding those little problems that you can fix or you can help someone with, and you are able to run your business and make some cash home from the comfort of your home. You don't never have to. Let me tell you something. This is the game. All of you people that have to go somewhere to make money, if you got to leave your house to make money, if you learn this game, if you want, because you can still leave your house in real estate. If you want to, you can stay home and get paid using this vehicle with all the technology. You could use AI, you could use virtual assistants. If you want to stay home to create income, you do not have to leave your house. You can be anywhere. This works like that. Or you can leave your house if you want. Let's say you want to leave. You can go to your property. You can check on your properties. You could be the property manager. You can do title stuff. Like sometimes I like to go to the records department. I do leave the house. People sometimes be like, well, you don't leave the house. I leave the house. So I'll go to the deed records department and then I'll do a deed transfer or something like that. Or you can go to the county, to the clerks or to the courthouses, and you can look things up. You know what I'm saying? So you can do all of that. You understand? It's not you don't have to stay home, but you can. And you can set your own schedule. If you ever feel like you're locked up and you always got to be somewhere and the time is not yours, you can take back control of your time in this business using this strategy. Because I was just online, right? If you look, I was just online. So these are tax states: Alaska, Connecticut, Georgia, Hawaii, Delaware, Arkansas. So these states, what it means is you can't buy the lien. You have to just, when the person doesn't pay their taxes, right, you just buy the deed. They auction off the deed. It's the house itself, which comes with a tax deed. All right, so these are the states. And what are the tax, and I'm going to show you, what are the tax lien states in the U.S.? Here we go. That's the rest of them. Alabama, Arizona. I like the other way. You see how the other way it showed the nice little map? And now they want to just give me names. Wyoming, Vermont. These are the tax liens. So in these states, you can buy a lien and you can make money over time. Right? And so remember, if you buy a lien, just you bought the debt, like a collection agency. You purchased the debt. And if you purchase the debt, now the person who owns the house owes you the money. They can pay you. They can pay you. You make interest on your money. So there's two ways to make. You can be shooting for making that money on your money. You can buy a lien, and now you just bought a debt. Your money's making money, and if the person pays it all back, you make interest. Or you can just go for the house and either wait out till they lose everything and foreclose, or the other one is the deed. You just wait for the time where they can't redeem, and then you buy the tax deed. All right. Now, there's a way that I learned this stuff. I'm going to open up for questions the last few minutes, right? There's a way that I learned this stuff. So everything that I'm telling you, not only did I go through it and I've seen it myself, I also learned it in an education system that we have. And some of y'all know, I mean, some of you some of you are fairly new. Everybody here knows about our Renata's education, yeah. But I'll show you anyway. Because I'm recording this, right? I am recording this. So here. So tax liens and deeds with our guy, Gavin McCaleb. So this is where these classes here show you exactly. It goes deeper. I just did the surface. I'm just on the surface. Basically, the concept. The first thing you just have to know is the idea of how you can get a tax lien and own the property. But he goes deep into all different strategies. Like this is where, where to find it, how to bid, go to the auction, how to do the numbers, all the difference, the main difference between a tax lien and a tax deed, how it works. Right. So let's look at this right here. Tax deed, liens, and certificates.
Terminology. Let's get the terminology set. You're going to hear me say some information that may be there's going to be some overlap.
This is what I wanted you to see. So that's him talking. That's the instructor. And you see, there it is. You see on my screen?
Yes.
Now, when you take in this exact same class, look at what he does. He goes over everything I just talked about. A tax lien, right? An owner has not paid property taxes, sold to investors who pay delinquent taxes in exchange for interest and or penalty. That's the lien certificate. Here's the tax deed. A deed that's issued when the property is sold to settle delinquent taxes. And then where you can, an auction is a publicly held sale where the property is sold to the highest bidder. Now, usually the auction is where tax deeds are sold. All right. On a tax lien, it's a foreclosure process. And all of this stuff is public record, and you can find it online. You can usually find it online. So what I showed you is where you sitting right now. Let's say you just wanted to look it up, right? First step, let's go over the steps again. Get out of here. First step is, this is my, look, right here. The question is, how can I find tax delinquent properties in Ohio? So you pick your state, you go to ChatGPT, tax delinquent properties in Ohio. Boom, great question. Then it tells you, you got the county treasurer or auditor website. So there's certain websites you can go. You can look up tax lien and foreclosure sale listings right here. Public notices and legal publications. Now, your own database, we got a system that you can, there's systems like PropStream and iOS where they show you tax delinquent properties. Some services, if you pay for it, they'll tell you where tax delinquent properties are. They'll just tell you like, hey, this is a tax delinquent property. You can buy the list or you can search for the list, like anything else, right? If you got time, you can go to the county and look it up. You can look it up online, or you can pay for a service that tells you, oh, these are all the tax delinquent properties. You can purchase that list. So you can pay for speed, or if you ain't got no money and you got energy, then use your energy. Use your sweat equity. You feel me? So you could do it like that. And then after you learn how to find it, just learn which states are tax lien states, tax deed states, based on the strategy. Okay, so you can look that up too. What are the tax lien states? What are the tax deed states? Know the difference. And then if you really want to know and dive deep into the education piece of it, right? And you want that information, we got a class where you can just dive deep and take the same class that I did on the whole key terms themselves, just like this, right? Tax lien, tax deed, and auction. So the class will tell you exactly. And the good thing about the class, right? So right now you're live, you're listening to me. The good thing about the class, the difference between me and this class is that you don't own me. So you can't play me over and over again. But if you have this class, you could play the class over and over again. You could pause it, right? You could pause it. You could play it back. You know, you can go back to it. Me, you gotta find me. Yo, Joe, where you at? You might have to text me, see if I'm available. You understand? That might not work for you. Those things might not work for you. So, and who wants to wait on people, right? So the class gives you a certain type of freedom to do it on your own time, which is what this is about, right? You do it on your terms. That's what the class gives you when you use the class. You're not waiting on nobody. Or you could always go online as well to get the information, right? But the class is cool because it's already everything is there, so it's already compacted. All right. That's it. That's the whole thing. Questions. Questions. Did you learn something, or you probably already knew all this stuff?